From the studios of TLC Talk Radio, it's TashaTalkz. I'm your girl, Tasha. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Catch us daily on TLCTalkRadio.com, 24/7 edutainment. We are still kind of, sort of sheltering in place, and we want to take up a second discussion with our friend, Pastor Yo of Purpose Church, who is a graduate student at Roosevelt University's School of Counseling. Welcome to the show, friend.
Hello. Good afternoon. Glad to be back.
Listen, we have so much to talk about, and because everything is still ongoing, like, this is not a conversation that ends, so it'll be a part 3, 4, 5, 28. I mean, when we talk about relationship, we have to frame it within the context of the things that are happening around us, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
In the middle of this pandemic, we're still talking about how to be whole. And I was a guest on another show this morning talking about the church's role in that, and how we navigate this pandemic, still meeting the needs of our parishioners and but keeping them safe, and then slowly integrating into the world. So we have a lot to chat about, and the value of working from home is that you have all kinds of city noise behind you, and that's okay.
Yes.
We certainly heard the horn blowing, and I hope whoever's coming outside just comes on out.
Yes.
But you can't do anything about that. It is what it is. It actually ties right into the show. So when we talked at first, Pastor Yo, we talked about, cultivating relationships and battling loneliness. But I think at this point we weren't sure what was going to happen. And so we mentioned, okay, well, what are going to be the expectations of life once this shelter in place order has been lifted? And in varied places, they are lifting in stages. I think Chicago is on stage 3.
We're on stage 3, yes. Chicago's on stage 3.
So there's so many pieces, so many moving pieces to this, and things evolve. And then there's concern that, while in the middle of this pandemic, the other pandemic that has been going on since the country was founded, racial inequality and the brutality of citizens by the people who are supposed to keep them safe. In the middle of that, protests are happening. So now there's a concern about a resurgence, right, of the coronavirus. And now we're like, oh, Lord, are we going to ever get back to normal? I say no. What do you say?
Right. Oh, yes, absolutely. First, I want to just congratulate and just give honor to all of the pastors and churches and church leaders who've had to navigate through this new normal, through the pandemic, still being relational, taking care of their church members, having their safety at the forefront, still delivering the word, and still trying to keep that connection virtually, keeping the relationships going. And so I think that when we say going back to what we had, I think we need to change that narrative, because actually I don't believe we will ever go back, and I don't think we should. There were so many characteristics that we were living in. We were moving fast. We talked about this before. We were moving fast. Our calendars were full. We weren't giving ourselves time to really sit and think, be creative, allowing us to really view the world around us, really get in touch with ourselves, deal with some things that has affected us in our past. And so I believe that what we are, the restrictions are starting to lift in certain states, and people are starting to kind of inch back outside. But then there's the concern of the rates of COVID going back up, of a resurgence, because people are going back to being in community. We are social beings. We are not meant to walk this life alone. And so the concern from the doctors and those who are in the medical field who understand understand viruses, who have the knowledge in this area. They're really watching what is this doing, what is going to happen. And I think that we have to be personally, individually, we still have to have care for one another. I think we still need to be able to understand at the very basic level, my action can affect my brother or my sister. Mm-hmm. And I think if we keep that at the forefront of our minds, that we have to be careful of what we do. You know, wearing our mask when we're out in the open, when we're interacting with other individuals, making sure that we continue to practice really great hygiene. Mm. I mean, it's funny that we have to tell people to wash their hands, but wash your hands
for 20 seconds.
You know, don't cough on people. Keep a nice, safe distance between another person or the person that you're next to. Be mindful of boundaries. Sure. Right? You know, things that we have never really have had to enact. Boundaries are important. So keeping that 6 feet distance around you, like the hula hoop analogy, if you stand in the middle of the hula hoop, the person should not be able to be inside of that hula hoop. Mm-hmm. So I think those expectations that yet we cannot cut off communication. Sure. So we still need to stay in contact with one another. Be intentional. Pick up the phone, send the text message, send the email. There are so many devices now, that apps that you can, FaceTime, Duo, Zoom, all these other apps that are out there, so we can actually see one another. Still keep that up, because I think that being in such crowded places with so many people on top of each other at one time, that has gone away. Mm-hmm. Or at least until the end of this year. I mean, the way that we socialize has definitely, will have to continue to evolve to keep us safe.
I think what you said was important. You talked a lot about community, and I stated this earlier in a different program. The expectations of what life are going to be like, they're going to be different. They're going to be completely different. There is no normal as we knew it. It's gone. And so I referenced the heat wave of 1995 here in Chicago. People lost relatives. A lot of people were susceptible to, heat stroke, and people passed. People did not have adequate cooling. People did not have, adequate water resources. And I said, and that epidemic here locally led to a shift in the way we think community-wise. So what do you hear anytime it's about to get really cold or really hot? You hear the newscasters say, check on the elderly, check on your neighbors. And so we now have it ingrained in our minds that if it's super hot or if it's super cold, as a community, we need to check on each other.
Yes.
I'm hopeful that this pandemic will garner the same kind of cognizance, that we are looking out for one another, just a little bit more. You normally look out for your people. Sure, my parents are elderly, so I'm calling them. I'm making sure they're good. I make sure that they have what they need in the house. But I'm going to check on Miss Johnson too. I'm going to check on Mr. Smith as well. Whatever that looks like, and if we're all in community, now we're building relationships that we didn't even recognize were there for building.
Yes, absolutely. That's such a wonderful sentiment. And out of chaos and tragedy should come renewal and rebirth and a new vision. Sure. Contingency plans are only created after something tragic has happened. Mm-hmm. And so if we can look at staying individuals have been intentional with checking on people, making sure that we're connecting with friends and family, and those that we may not have a close relationship with. But like you said, I'm going to check on Mr. Johnson. I'm going to check on the deaconess. I'm going to make sure that mother is okay. Do you need me to go to the store for you? Because now hopefully it will stay ingrained in our brains and in our part of our core to look out for our brother and our sister. I am my sister's keeper. That's right. I am my brother's keeper. And when we look at now with the racial upheaval and the explosion that has taken place, we have to also still check in. How are you doing mentally?
Absolutely.
How is this affecting you? Especially for individuals that have experienced a loss of a loved one who was murdered through police brutality. Mm-hmm. So these images of what we're going through now, that brings up those emotions, and some of them feel like they're reliving that time all over again. Mm-hmm. So we have to make sure that we check in, be a resource for them, or just be a shoulder so they can cry or vent or just sit in silence. I am such a proponent of when you connect with people, it doesn't mean you have to sit and talk to them on the phone or text with them all day. Sitting with them literally means if we're sitting in silence,
yep,
then that's what I'm gonna do with you. If that's what you need, so you know you're not by yourself. Mm-hmm. So we have to make sure that we're there for those individuals as well, and talking to our children, talking to the children that's in our village, asking them what are their thoughts.
Yeah.
Being careful of what they're seeing on social media. I had a friend tell me last week that her 9-year-old daughter saw the video of Mr. George Floyd. And it came through on her social media. I can't remember what she was watching, and she watched it. And my girlfriend and her husband had to talk to their daughter for like 2, almost 3 hours, because of the effect that it took on her. 9 years old. We try to be very protective of the people that's in our social circle and those who are in our village, especially our children. And we say we have to be careful what goes in our ear gates and our eye gates, and we try to be there for the kids that are in our village. And these things still slip through, and they watch it, and then they have so many questions that we just not able to answer. But just being there with them is so important too. Making sure what's their mental capacity is like, what's their emotional, what are they feeling emotionally. If they tell you that they're angry, don't tell them don't be angry. It's okay. They need to be able to express it and get it out.
That's right.
They need to be able to get that out. Yeah. So I think this time, hopefully more and more people are taking in what they've done as we've sheltered in place, making sure that we are being good listeners. And we continue to be really good listeners.
I agree with us. I agree completely. And I'm thinking about that 9-year-old. Now I'm over 40. I wouldn't watch the video. When people send me things, I'm trying to gauge very quickly, what is this? Y'all who send me things in my Facebook inbox, I ain't watching the videos because I don't know what I'm going to see. And typically people don't preface it. Yes. And so I know what I cannot handle. I know what will keep me up at night. I know what will terrify me, because it's scary enough to know that somebody can just hate you just 'cause.
Yes.
And they don't always have to be, but they could be in a position of authority over you.
Yes.
And so now we're in a different situation if I'm met or faced with that. And so I know that about myself. That goes into the next question I was going to ask. Like, sitting quietly, that's one of the ways we can figure out what we know or what we need to learn about ourselves. What have we learned about ourselves in this time? You talked about being creative. You talked about just understanding the people around you, the people in close proximity to you, or even, I think this was really important, what you said, if a child says, or whoever says, I'm angry, that you don't respond with, well, don't be angry. Absolutely not. You let them come through whatever emotion that is. They need to walk through it. And yes. I had this conversation with someone really special to me, and we talked about him and his emotions. And he said that in the past, he was taught men don't, flex this. They don't do that. You don't ask for help. And I was like, no, God made us emotional beings. You can't pray your emotions away. Now, you can't live there, but you have to walk through them. Yes. So that you can experience them. Otherwise, you have a community of maladjusted adults who have not experienced the humanness that is the emotional range. Yes. So absolutely, walking through it is really important.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm such a proponent of acknowledging your emotions. Acknowledgement is so important. I think a lot of individuals have this belief that if you acknowledge the emotions that you're going through, then you are giving them life, but you're not. You can't fight and deal with things that you can't see.
Sure.
And so I think during this time of what I've really learned, what I know for sure, using one of Oprah's lines that she used, knowing that I believe having such a good relationship with myself, that I'm okay with looking at myself in the mirror and saying, this is a bunch of crap.
What is this?
This is foolishness. Why are you whining about this? Why is this still a stick in the mud for you 2 years later? And so then I can say, well, because you haven't unpacked this yet.
Yeah.
Oh, now let's get to unpacking. So, and I'm very comfortable having these conversations with myself. So during this time, I've secured that in myself. How can I expect to be an effective journey walker? This is the term I use for myself as a future counselor. How can I be a future journey walker? Because I'm not going to give you the answers.
That's right.
I'm going to walk this journey with you. If I don't know how to walk the journey myself, and be honest with myself, really learning what I like and what I don't like. And I think it's such a revelation for people. I've heard so many people say, I really did not like spending my entire weekend out the house. I'm running from one event to the next event to the next event, not giving myself time to really enjoy being at home. And I have worked 5 days throughout the week.
Right.
And having to have shelter in place, I'm really loving just the time being at home. Now, I'm not saying that we don't want to go back out there and engage with people. Absolutely. That's why you're seeing so many graduation parades and birthday drive-bys and anniversary pull-ups, because people we crave that, and we love celebrating wonderful achievements, right? We want to share that, and we want to be a part of of celebrating other people. But I think also it's so good to have been in this time to say, I really don't like that. Or I thought I wanted to create this comic book, and I've been saying it for 5 years. And you know what? I really don't want to create this comic book. So you're realizing that these things that you thought that you wanted to do, and you're saying, this is not really it's not in my core.
Sure.
It's not giving me joy. So I think this time also, hopefully, for a lot of us, have been able to really pull back the layers. Again, get to our core. What is it that really brings us joy? Or some people have found out, I really like photography.
Right up my alley.
And so they're enjoying being able to take these very nice solitude still photos. My coworker has really gotten into the stars, and so now she bought this special camera that you can take pictures of the moon and the stars, and she go out on her back porch. I mean, she's so excited when she talks about it. Something that she hadn't really thought about until now.
Yeah.
And so it's exciting to hear her talk about this newfound enjoyment that she has for herself.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping people have been able to see that, if there's something different or you have a new feeling, nothing wrong with that. Celebrate it.
Sure.
How awesome is that? How awesome is that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And this has forced you to have time to explore. It may be exploring new hobbies, but like you said, it's exploring yourself too. What do I like? What don't I like? Am I running to and from things to please other people? Have I taken time for myself? Have I neglected myself? Or it's illuminating to see how other people interact with you. Are people checking on you? Are you always the one to initiate contact? What does that mean? It doesn't mean that they're a bad friend. It may mean they're just not good at, the phone or outreach. Right. But if you call them and need them, they'll be there. But the point is, you have the opportunity to explore that. You have the opportunity to have these sometimes difficult conversations, whether they're with other people or with yourself. So I think that's key. And another thing we've had opportunity to do is spend some time reading or binge watching TV. Now, let me just tell the listeners on myself. So I had a virtual party kind of at the start of the pandemic, and during the conversation, we were talking about a book that, I can't remember the name of the book because I'm horrible, but our friend Nikki mentioned the book, and we all bought the book. And I think I bought the book first. Now ask me, audience, Tasha, have you read said book? Well, if I can't remember the title, ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you one guess. I've not read it. And here's the thing. We've set 2 dates to talk about the book. We ain't done nothing. Now, at least y'all read it. I'm over here like, la, 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 with this book in my phone, doing nothing. And it's not that I haven't had the time. I just was like, I'm going to read it later. And it's June. I think that happened in March. Yep. So you also have time to waste time, is what I'm saying. I have been focused in other places, but that one was a wrap. Did you read? You read it?
Yes, and I'm sitting here like, what was the name of the book? I can't even remember the name of it, but I did read it. But I'm going to say I also have been reading my school books. So that's like, if you ask me about my school books, I can tell you.
See, that's what I'm talking about. So you've done what you're supposed to do. And I have too, obviously in other areas, but
just other areas.
Leisure reading didn't work for me. You know what I got hooked on? Those you choose your story kind of animated apps that come on, they hit on social media, and it's like, choose your story, and they'll present you with a scene, and you get an option. Listen, don't play those. Let me tell you why. I spent about $40 because you got to buy coins if you want certain scenario. I was like, oh, I am being wasteful, but it was just pure unadulterated fun. It was escapism for me. So I don't have cable, so I can go ahead and spend the $40 on this one time, and I still have coins left, which is tempting because now you want to get another story, but it's like, there ain't enough coins to finish the story. What have you watched?
So here's the thing. I have this crazy, weird emotion of spending time watching television.
Okay.
And it stemmed from when I was in undergrad, and I felt like if I was watching TV, I can be studying.
Okay.
And so that kind of has stuck with me, unfortunately. And then now, being in grad school, I'm like, if I'm watching TV, I know there's like 5 chapters I need to be reading right now. However, I have taken the time, because you do have to give your brain time to relax. And you said something so important. I think people don't realize how important it is. We need to have fun.
Yeah.
We have to do things to have fun. It doesn't mean you don't care about the pandemic. It doesn't mean that you don't care about police brutality, racial upheaval, the systemic racism. It doesn't mean you don't care.
Right.
It means you need to step away, and you are allowing your soul some time so you can have fun.
That's good.
And if that means watching Golden Girls,
yes,
then that's what you do, because Golden Girls is my go-to. I watch Golden Girls. I have seen every single episode probably 50,000 times. I will go back and watch it on Hulu. I love Golden Girls. Now, I have been watching documentaries lately, because I'm a history buff. If I was not afraid of bugs and creepy crawlers that crawl in the ground, I could probably be an archaeologist. But I don't like those bugs, and I don't like things crawling on you. So
I'm with it.
I'll just watch it on television. But I've been watching a lot of documentaries, especially now within the last 2 weeks, the Black experiences. So documentaries that are important to our culture, stories. I watched I Am Not Your Negro. I love James Baldwin. I love his writings. And so that was a really good documentary, very soul stirring, and made me want to go back and do some more research, because I was asking the question. I think I was in the middle of a text, getting ready to text you. I said, so wait a minute. So did they have something to do with Lorraine Hansberry dying? I mean, that was the first thing that popped in my head after they said, after their meeting. Then, well, not to give it away for people who haven't seen it, but I had so many questions. I was like, oh my gosh, what happened?
Thought-provoking documentaries, yeah.
Yes, very thought-provoking. But also, in watching those documentaries, that can pull at your heartstrings. I try to watch things that are comedic, things that's going to make me laugh. So I love stand-up comedy. I love watching, I watch Kevin Hart. I watched some older Dave Chappelle, some old Key and Peele. I've watched some of those just to bring some laughter. And although a lot of those comics have great social commentary, they add some humor to go on top of it, which is so important. Now, I will suggest that if anyone hasn't seen the latest Dave Chappelle, 846, there's nothing funny about it, but it's great.
I plan to watch it, but it has to be in the morning. I'm a weirdo like that. So if I'm watching something that's going to pull at me, I can't watch it in the evening because then now I'm up. I can't sleep. I'm all over the place. I'm crying. And we've seen a lot of tears for a variety of reasons during this time and space. So I know that at night is, Animal Planet's Too Cute or Cat Williams or TV's Bloopers and Practical Jokes. I'm that girl. But if I'm watching, my favorite shows, Forensic Files and crime documentaries and the like, that's during the day. Or if I'm watching those documentaries, I started I Am Not Your Negro. I did not finish it. And my father wrote down, because he watches a lot of these documentaries. This is where I get this from. He wrote down a list and gave it to me yesterday of things he wanted me to watch. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow morning before I start working. So yeah, it's a lot, and you're right. We have to protect our ear and eye gates and temper what it is we're watching and seeing. And I think that's a good place to end. I told you there was going to be a part 2012 because we are not done with the list of topics we discussed, but that's okay. I appreciate you coming on to the show. We'll welcome you back for part 3 from the studios of TLC Talk Radio. This is TashaTalkz. I'm your girl, Tasha. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Catch us every day, multiple times a day on TLCTalkRadio.com. 24/7 edutainment. We will catch you next week.